Hello, and welcome to the Weird Around Illinois podcast. If I told you that there was a place that had suspicious deaths and possible burials of mob bosses or mobsters, and ghost sightings, and pictures where the eyes follow you, and portals to other dimensions or other areas, what area in Illinois would you be thinking of when I describe all those things? Well, I'm talking about the Chicago Botanic Garden. So let's get weird. Let me go back a little bit and talk about this land that is now the Chicago Botanic Garden. It's in Glencoe. It's right on the border of Lake and Cook County. It's like right next to the Edens Expressway. Right now it's a beautiful garden. But before it was a garden, it was a swamp. It was part of the Skokie Lagoons, and there were no buildings there or anything. It was just basically this huge marshy area. And back in the times of Al Capone, mob bosses made interesting use of large marshy areas. They tended to dispose of people and bodies and things in areas like that. Before the Botanic Garden was a garden, it may have been a dumping ground for Al Capone's enemies and other mob enemies and general criminals from the early 1900s. Now, along comes the garden. Now, I think it's about 385 acres, it's several buildings on it, it's got over 1 million visitors a year, beautiful place, flowers, trees, all kinds of programs going on. But even in this beautiful place, there are still some unfortunate things that have happened. I know of at least 3 deaths that have occurred on the grounds. One quite tragic death, one very, very suspicious death, and one as tragic as any death would be. It was just, someone's time to go, but still a death within those grounds. Now, people die everywhere. That's not necessarily a new thing. That's not necessarily something that makes a place haunted. But there is actually a rich paranormal history to the Botanic Garden. If you go back several decades, there were people who worked there who claimed to feel a presence holding them down sometimes, or brushing against them in the dark. There's a particular painting that used to be in one of their public buildings. I don't think it's up there anymore, but supposedly it's still up somewhere in the garden. The eyes would follow people. Really kind of creepy. There was also history involving these weird places of power out there. There's a friend of mine who worked there, and I've known many people who've worked at the garden over the years. This man is no longer with us. His name was Henry Bort. He was the curator of the Japanese island for several decades, and he and I used to have long conversations about the mystical energy of the Botanic Garden. And Henry Bort named a number of spaces where he felt this powerful energy. One of them was the sensory garden, one of them was, of course, the Japanese garden, one was this reflecting pool, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But just in general, the Botanic Garden seems to be a place that attracts creative people, spiritual people, mystical people who feel some powerful connection with other realms when they're there. So, why don't we talk a little bit about some specific paranormal activity at the garden and our investigation of it. I'm going to start with the thing that Henry Bort referenced many years ago, the reflecting pool and Otter Girl sculpture.
Here's the creepy statue of the Otter Girl. It's an otter wrapped around her feet. This is the big tin fountain, which was giving off complete EMF readings one time when I was here. And there's an electrical box behind it on the power cord, because this is a fountain. But the electrical box is not what was giving off the electromagnetic signal before. It was this ring. So the story behind this region is there was a visitor to the Botanic Garden who came out here fairly regularly, who claimed that this was her place to practice astral projection. She would sit on a bench back here, staring at the statue, and she would launch herself from there to wherever she was going. And I'm not sure if she ever told me or if I just don't remember, but I don't know if the reason she did it here is because she was comfortable here, or because she felt some sort of extra power here, or because there was some portal here that allowed her to more easily travel, or if there was actually something pulling her from her body in this spot. But for whatever reason, she came here several times a week and claimed to astrally project herself on this spot.
At the time, I was open-minded as I am now, so I didn't say, you're crazy. I didn't say, that's impossible, but I did, say, wow, that's really interesting. And then I questioned her about why that spot, and she just talked about the incredible power of that area, which coincided with what Henry had told me. We'll talk a little bit about what you guys saw when we were there in a minute, but before we even got out there, I did a preliminary investigation, and I walked out there to the reflecting pool, and at that time, it was enclosed in this little alcove. A lot of people didn't even know it was there. It was like this wall of hedges around it, and you had to go through like a maze to get to it. One of the most hidden spots in the garden. And I sat by the reflecting pool and waited to see if anything would happen, and it didn't. And then just on a whim, I brought out my phone and started transmitting at 172 hertz, which was supposedly a frequency which can trigger paranormal activity. As I was doing it, I started checking out the area with the EMF detector. And after a few minutes, suddenly I started to get this fluttering on the meter. So I walked closer to the circular reflecting pool, and I held the meter up to it, and it redlined. So I started going around the pool, all the way around. It stayed in the red line, and my phone was well away from me. I wasn't carrying anything electrical, and
there weren't any like electrical lines that could have been underneath it or nothing like that.
Well, there was an electrical outlet beside it, but strangely enough, when I pointed at the electrical outlet, I got nothing. But when I pointed at the water, or when I pointed at the tin or whatever metal it is that the circular structure is made from, it lit up. The statue didn't light it up, though. That was the other paranormal thing. I forgot to mention that. Remember, I took photos the first time I was out there.
Oh, yeah.
And we looked at old photos of the statue, and it was facing differently. The head was turned differently.
Yeah, and the arms were, like, in different positions a little bit.
Yeah. And
honestly, I kind of forgot about how big that kind of was.
Yeah, me too. It was half the reason we went out to investigate it, and it's really strange that I didn't think of it until now.
Yeah, it's kind of just in the back of my mind. I was like, yeah, it happened, it was nothing big, but now that I think about it, you're right, it was really different.
Yeah, and I kept, searching the internet and looking around, asking people out there, trying to see if I could get older pictures of that statue. To see if, there was like a gradual thing, or if it just completely flipped and, like one day it just suddenly looked another direction.
I don't know.
So that brought us to our most recent investigation, and we were out there a few weeks ago, and we got permission to go in there when nobody else was around and kind of take a look.
So is there, like, actually deep history to this statue? Because I've noticed that there's, like, that thing.
There's no history that I'm aware of. Doesn't mean there isn't. It means I haven't figured out what it is yet. So right now, there's nothing.
When we had our instruments going, you guys were filming everything, and I did the exact same thing. I set up the transmitter at 172 hertz.
The one thing that I did last time was I actually generated a signal. And every now and then there's a signal that people just associate with the paranormal. So I started broadcasting that frequency at the statue.
It definitely seemed like it should have a lot more, I guess, history to it. It's a shame that there's not really a ton to talk about. Saying, like, the statue, there's a death, like, literally right next to it or something like that. There was none of that necessarily.
Well, the other thing, when we went there, some of the hedges had been removed. So it was, like, exposed.
Yeah.
it was even more quiet than that before that happened. We even did some dowsing rod investigation, which was interesting. The dowsing rods did not point toward the statue or the potential portal, the pool at all.
All right. Show me yes. Show me no. Scan. Show me yes. Show me no. Is there a portal in this area? Is there an energy source in this area? Is there a spirit in this area? Are all of those things gone from this area now? Is there a portal close to here? Seems like an I don't know.
Not much of a response to anything.
No.
I wonder if when they did all this work, if they moved anything. If maybe they moved the hedges, replanted the hedges, and moved the statue 10 feet to the right or something. It was interesting and weird, but a little disappointing because I didn't get any of that strong EMF reading that I got last time. So after we did that investigation, we decided to do a little post-investigation research. One of the things that I found was, and this, I don't know if this counts as research, I was kicked back watching a movie, but the movie was Constantine with Keanu Reeves, and there was a scene in it where he fills a bathtub with water because he needs to pass someone through a portal. And, she's asking him, why are you using water? And he said, because water acts as a lubricant between realities. By filling the tub with water, it will allow her to pass through the portal. And if you guys think about it, what was the one difference between when I took my EMF readings and when we all came out and investigated?
It was insanely dry. I just can't wrap my mind around how that would be possible for water to be that kind of main source of, I guess, power.
But look at how many cultures use water in their rituals. I mean,
That's true.
Christianity with the holy water. A lot of Native American tribes use water when they're performing their ceremonies. Some cultures, island cultures, worship water. So that was the first place we visited. Now, unfortunately, we didn't get to visit all of the haunted sites or paranormal sites at the Botanic Garden. There are quite a few. There are things, the ones that I mentioned, and supposedly there's a tree somewhere down on the south end that they call the hanging tree. And I'd love to find out why they call it the hanging tree, but went on to the next area, which was the greenhouse area in the Regenstein Center. Now, I have looked into an occurrence that happened out there many years ago, like in the early 90s. A security officer working here, his mother came to bring his lunch, and it was a snowy night, and her car got stuck somewhere off on the paths there. She got lost. She made it to these doors, pounding on these doors, shaking these doors, but she couldn't get in. Well, the security officer found her in the morning, just barely alive, brought her inside, and called the paramedics. So they went from here, paramedics worked on her right here. At 6 a.m. she died.
interesting about that is that at 2:06 a.m. on the anniversary of her death, several different years, this box has given us an alarm with no reason. It just goes off and says, unauthorized entry.
This was not an alarm that gave a lot of false alarms. When he checked into it, he found out that it was on, I think, like the 25th anniversary of the woman's death, and it was at the exact time of death recorded in the incident report.
Oh, okay. That's not just a coincidence. That's insanely close.
Yeah. It was spooky enough to make me want to check that area out. Now, as with all ghost investigations, the problem is you don't know when they're going to be there. You don't know if the ghost only shows up on even numbered or 25-year increment anniversaries of her death, or if she just visited once and is never coming back. But over time, these stories get twisted around and everybody has a different take on it. So, you could argue that it wasn't actually the south greenhouse, but it was the east greenhouse that she was outside of. I honestly don't know.
So my thought is that her spirit must either still be in this area or must return to this area from time to time. It's probably heads up. Yeah, I'm not agreeing on that. Show me yes. Show me no. Is there a spirit in this area right now? Is there a spirit that frequently returns to this area? Is the spirit that was once in this area gone forever?
There, again, I wasn't feeling anything, and, we weren't getting any readings on the EMF detector other than the alarm system. But as it happens, there's a workroom there. And usually this is a high security area shut off to the public, but they were doing an installation at the time we were there, so the doors were open. So we were able to go into that workroom a few steps and kind of look around. And my understanding is that workroom didn't exist when this occurred. Mm-hmm. And if it was in fact the east greenhouse that she was locked outside of, that would have been about where she was standing.
Is there frequently a spirit in this room?
When we were in that workroom, first of all, my dowsing rod started going crazy.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Is that a yes?
Where is the spirit now? Why don't we grab the EMF detector? Where is the spirit? Is the spirit right beside you? Hello. We're from the Weird Around Illinois podcast. I understand that you're in here with us. Are you looking for something or someone? Is there someone you were supposed to meet with? Is this the last place you ever went?
I don't know about you guys, but I just felt a spookier vibe there.
I mean, the moment that we were starting to get a few responses with the dowsing rods, I was starting to wonder what was going on there.
Yeah.
But after, I said before that we didn't see much more, but after the EMF, and once we, like, it was on our way out, you got the EMF, not sure we got much else.
No, I think that was the end of it.
Except somebody ate a whole entire container of cake.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a random container of cake and other food just on a table.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely got there too late because we missed out on the cake. We missed out on, most of the foods they had there. All I saw were a couple crumbs left.
Yeah.
I don't know. We left that investigation. I initially was disappointed because, I'd always heard so many things about that area and, the power in certain spots there. And I'd always wanted to come out there with the full equipment and the full team and check it out. I really thought we would find more than we did. But, in retrospect, now knowing that tub was empty and that maybe if it was full, we might have had different results. And thinking about the fact that there were probably 4 or 5 other areas that we never even got to look at that, had a certain amount of spiritual energy to them, supposedly. I have to list this as not necessarily a failed expedition, but an inconclusive one.
Yeah. As you said before, this place has a lot of land and a lot of history, so it's definitely... We would be wrong if we were to say right now that, like, the whole place is definitely not haunted in any way. We only investigate a fraction of what could be haunted.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of, maybe going back one day to investigate some other things we didn't have the opportunity to visit this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take it right.
Right?
You're
Oh. On the right.
You've been take a line by your good.
Oh, I'm gonna do a lot more. Wow. At night, everything just looks like pretty much gray.
Right? Doesn't this look like it should be something?
Yeah, maybe a satanic circle of mass production.
This is called the Mary Mix McDonald Woods. I believe Mary McDonald passed away a couple of years ago, so she might very well be out haunting it.
Mm.
I liked her though. It was nice.
If only we could get a drone shot of this.
Yeah. Mary Mix McDonald, she had a license plate that cracked me up because her name was McDonald and she was old, and her license plate said E-I-E-I-O. Old McDonald had a car, E-I-E-I-O.
Talk to you. I understand that you're in here with us right now. You come to this place often? Is there someone you were supposed to meet here? Is this the last place you ever went to? Are you at peace? Is there any message that you have for anyone? Is there anything that you need to do that you haven't been able to do?
No. Nothing conclusive there.
I guess we've created more mysteries than we've solved here, but that's the way it goes with paranormal investigations sometimes. So let us know if you've experienced anything strange at the Botanic Garden or anywhere else in or around Illinois, and we would love to take a look at it sometime. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. We'll be talking to you again soon.